Massimo Cellino. We have a text regarding this as well. But Massimo Cellino, Leeds owner, loses Football League appeal from today, 19th of January 2015. Leeds United owner Massimo Cellino has lost his appeal against the Football League's decision to disqualify him from owning the club. He was disqualified in December, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, after the league obtained documents from an Italian court which had found Cellino guilty of tax evasion. The 58-year-old Italian is prohibited like that breakdown, WWF breakdown.
Break it down.
I remember that pay-per-view was pretty good actually.
Excellent pay-per-view.
Yeah, the 58-year-old Italian is prohibited from having anything to do with running the club until April 10th. Leeds are currently 20th in the championship. Sorry, but the professional.
That's harsh.
I've got Leeds supporters in my family. I can't help it, man. I really can't help but laugh. But it's a shame.
Shout out to Mr. Saunders, man. Mr. Saunders is one of my favourite Leeds supporters.
Okay, I'm gonna say one of my favourites. The Professor, as we call him, Mr. Hudson Jr. Mr. Larry Hudson Jr., the Professor. The Professional Conduct Committee set up by the Football League to hear Cellino's appeal against the decision ruled that the verdict of the Italian court was for an act involving dishonesty. Sorry, I just had to pause and let that sink in. Which is a disqualifying condition under its owners and directors test. Okay, Leeds in uncharted territory. The Football League will want him to step down in 2 days, and we're not quite sure what that will mean. Will he have to put his shares into his wife's name, or will he have to sell the club? We will have to wait and see. It looks like they will try and fight this and move forward, but it leaves Leeds in a precarious position. They are in uncharted territory right now. He'll be able to come back, but we don't know whose hands he will put the club in the meantime. And that was from BBC Radio Leeds reporter Adam Pope. So that's quite an interesting one there. The Football League said in a statement, "We considered that the judge's findings of fact and her description of Mr. Cellino's state of mind based on them is of conduct which would reasonably be considered to be dishonest." Leeds Chief Operating Officer Matt Child told BBC Radio Leeds that the club was surprised and disappointed with the verdict and would continue to take legal advice. He said, "It's very early days for us and we will be talking to the lawyers about our opportunities. We've got lots of very good people with us and we will be liaising with the Football League and their legal team to see what the potential outcomes could be for Leeds United. We will be as compliant as we need to be." Massimo feels like he's been invited to a party and when he has shown up, he hasn't been allowed in. Well, mate,
you know he's not on the list, you're not coming in.
Exactly. It's one of them was. By the way, Leeds are actually currently under a transfer embargo for breaching financial fair play rules, meaning they cannot pay any transfer fee for players in the current window.
But here's my thing, right?
And also, I just want to put a final point on that. Cellino, who took over at Ellen Rowe last April, will be allowed to resume his role after April 10th as his conviction will be deemed to be spent. Now, do you want to jump in on that before I do?
I wanted to actually just do a quick comparison to Manchester City, because aren't Manchester City also in violation of financial fair play?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So how did
UEFA have stung them for it.
So how have they managed to go and sign Wilfred Bronny for 25 million?
See, I don't know.
How has that happened?
I'm thinking the parent company of Man City and New York City FC will have something to do with that. Chicanery, dude. Chicanery. It is chicanery. I don't know how they're getting around it.
I really don't know.
Chicanery. We're gonna have to look into that.
Then of course, like you look at this with Leeds, right? And for me, I feel sorry for the fans.
Yeah, same here.
I really do. Namely, Mr. Russ Vernon, because now, let's be honest, right? All I'm gonna do is just be like, yeah, let's all laugh at Leeds.
You know what?
But Lily, I'm really sorry. Lily, I'm really sorry.
No, that's a limit. They just went deep. You know what, yeah? I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Supporters in the vein of Pitch Talk's very own Russ Vernon, I wouldn't say I feel sorry for those kind of supporters for the pure reason that, to quote a phrase from the Gman, there's been a lot of flip-flopping.
That is true.
Before Cellino took over,
and we're not even talking about Javianas either.
before Cellino took over, certain fans were like, no, we don't want Cellino. Then when Cellino got taken on board at the beginning of the season, it was like, yeah, we love Cellino. Now, a certain member of the PT family who supports Leeds is glad that Cellino lost the appeal. Do you see where I'm going with the flip-flopping thing? That's what I don't get. But for me, it's a case of. We consider the judge's findings of fact and a description of Mr. Cellino's state of mind based on them is of conduct which would reasonably be considered to be dishonest. So let's get these convictions right. Fraud twice and tax evasion. I said from day one, nearly a year ago now, I wouldn't trust him. I would not trust that guy to do lawn care for me, let alone running a football club. I wouldn't trust him to run a bath, let alone run a football club, because at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is, I'm glad. Firstly, I'm glad he's lost the appeal, and secondly, it's just sad. Like I commented on Facebook, it's a case of course, the supporters are always the ones who end up getting the shaft. But most supporters don't realise there's a problem with something until it's too late. The Cardiff City thing, I'm glad Vincent Tan has finally seen sense and gone back to what Cardiff were for 100 years prior. Bluebirds. Blue. They play in blue as their home kit. But I also feel sorry for them Cardiff fans who went and bought red shirts as their home shirts. There ain't no money back for them, is there? But also one of the things is, I thought Vincent Tan thought that luck and prosperity were going to come with the kit change to red and the Red Dragon being the main thing. They got relegated. So it's a case of, all right, at least Vincent Tan has changed things back because he's seen the error of his ways. Fine, got no problem with that. Massimo Cellino, on the other hand, the one thing that kind of concerns me is that I would have had his conviction start from now. So, because the appeal has only just failed this afternoon, I would have had the conviction refresh and start from now, rather than he could potentially come back on the 10th of April and we could have this merry-go-round situation happen again. And you could have a situation again where he's hiring and firing managers willy-nilly. You could have this happen again. And again, it's one of them ones. It would destabilize Leeds United even more, as if this current thing hasn't destabilized them anyway, because now, like what Adam Pope was saying, that Leeds are in uncharted territory. I mean, it's a case of, is he going to have to put his shares in his wife's name or have to sell the club? For me, I would look at it as, well, he's disqualified from owning a club, so he should have to sell it. If he puts it in his wife's name, on April 10th, he could just switch it back. So essentially, he won't have been punished at all, because he could still be pulling the string. He could still be pulling the strings, like when Mourinho got that Champions League ban, and apparently he was pulling strings by sending messages via an iPad or via text message from a hotel room, like a couple of blocks away. Who's to say Cellino wouldn't be pulling off that chicanery? We already know the guy's dishonest. He's been convicted of fraud twice and tax evasion, so we already know he's dishonest. Who's to say he won't pull off that kind of chicanery? You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's one of them.
It's left with too many loopholes.
But yeah. I fear for Leeds United, to be perfectly frank. I said I've got family members who support Leeds United. I've got my uncle Larry who's supported them for 40, 50 years. And it's one of them. He ain't no Johnny come lately supporter. But we do have a text from Trev LUFC Weinstein saying, I'm sick to death with them parasites at the football. Why do they have to keep on our club? I think it means keep on at our club. Be a different kettle of fish if it was Harvey's best buddy. Not sure if I really get half of that, but yeah. But thank you for the Trev LUFC Weinstein. Thank you for the text. But for me, I said the fact of the matter is, Cellino shouldn't have been allowed to take over in the first place. Again, should have seen this crap storm coming. But But for me, a lot of clubs nowadays are taking short-termist options and methods to try and sort a long-term problem. Leeds United, to get them back into the Premiership and where they think they should be, is a long-term project. It's not something that's going to take 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's going to take 10, 15, potentially 20 at this rate. So it's one of them. I mean, they're selling. Over the past few years, they've been selling. They've been having to sell their better players. I mean, it's one of them ones. They've been having to sell their better players. Such as your Robert Snodgrasses, your Ross McCormacks, and now on January 15th, Derby County signed Stephen Warnock on an 18-month contract from Leeds as well. So it's a case of Leeds' captain has now been sold. He's gone. So as said, it's long-term solutions. You can't use short-termist methods. Such as selling some of your best players, having this ownership debacles, and they are debacles. And Dave Meir, aka @Mearsey on Twitter, has actually written a blog recently about this Leeds situation. Obviously, it was a day before this Cellino appeal verdict came out. But the fact of the matter is, For Leeds United, the situation is just the situation. You just got to look at it. I'm looking at this as an outsider looking in and thinking,
I don't know what the hell is going on here. Wait a minute, but I don't like it at all.
You can't say that. Everton 0, West Brom 0 was a full time, by the way. But it's a case of you just got to look at it and think, what is going on at Leeds United? None of it looks good. The captain's been sold. They've got an ownership fiasco going on right now, which has actually been going on for a year, to be perfectly honest, since GFH Capital sold up. Or even if you want to look further than that, you got the Ken Bates situation. So it's one of them ones. How can you justify selling your captains in back-to-back seasons? That's one thing I've actually just noticed. Back-to-back seasons, you have sold your captains. You can't build anything long term if you're selling your captain every season. You really can't. And you can't build anything long term when as soon as your owner takes over, there's rumors that he could be disqualified because he's been convicted of fraud twice and because he's been evading taxes. You can't build anything long term with short-termist methods. That's all I got to say about that. I mean, Jesse, did you want to add anything before we throw it out to the Skypers?
No, I happen to agree with you. I think, I don't think anybody knows what's happening at Leeds. I really do.
It's not good.
So, it's just a matter of that needs to be sorted out first and foremost. Right? And as you say, in terms of stability, it's not even like, they're following the Udinese model where, okay, year in, year out, you happen to lose your best players, but you happen to find other players to replace them. That's not even what's happening.
Yeah. Well, if you ain't got an owner and you're under a transfer embargo, you're screwed. So you can't bring no one in. And this is the concerning thing. That same owner could be back on April 11th because his conviction runs out on April 10th. So he could be back, and in a year's time, we could be talking about exactly the same thing again. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. As I said to the lads at Ibis post match on Saturday. I mean, Russ Vernon, you want to jump in on this before we have to move on?
Yeah, Slim, because last week I saw an interview which Cellino actually did with a journalist called Simon Austin, and after that pro, I actually tweeted saying that when he first came into the club, I thought he was going to be the best man for the club. Well, after reading what he actually said in that interview, I decided he wasn't the best man. Tonight, the majority shareholders, GFH, the other shareholders who own 25%, GFH Capital, Dinesh Patel from them was a director at Leeds, has released a statement which goes like this. GFH Capital is surprised and disappointed with the Football League's decision, Massimo Cellino's appeal against this suspension. We fully support his and the club's actions overturned and will continue to do so. We remain committed to the best interest of Leeds United, and these will be best achieved with Massimo's suspension being lifted as soon as possible. 710's Leeds did put a statement out earlier today themselves, saying that they're going to appeal either via the Football Association or via the courts direct. And Cellinos said tonight that he doesn't know whether it will return to the club after April the 10th, and he's already considering selling the club up this evening.
Do you know what? One interesting thing about that, if Cellino is true to his word, but like I've said before, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, and I think I've been proven right by this decision. At the end of the day, I wouldn't trust his word, in all honesty. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, he may come out and say now, I'm not meaning to be part of the CWO, the Cynics World Order right now, but the fact CWO. But the fact is, he can say that he might sell up. But the question is, like we asked a year and a half ago, who is going to want to buy Leeds, seeing the situation? You see what I'm saying?
That, Liam, if you'd like me to.
You what?
I could answer that if you want me to. Who would buy Leeds United?
All right, fine. Who would in a hypothetical world?
Together Leeds, which is a consortium which is set up by a former Man United director, Mike Farnan, with the help of former Hull City owner Adam Pearson, who's helping the fans, who's taken over, that they're helping the fans fund it, and the fans have already met with GFH Capital to buy their 25% stake, and they've said that if Cellino does decide to sell up, they will be in contact with Massimo Cellino to buy the 75% which he owns at the moment. Well, he doesn't have to be banned today, but whoever takes over will own until April, and they're going to be so they'll talk to him to try and buy the entire club. And Mike Farnan and then Gary Verity from Welcome to Yorkshire and Adam Pearson have all said they'll be there and around, in with the consortium with the fans, helping out, run the club, funding the club, and putting all the money in. Which, for me, Liam, I'd rather have Adam Pearson, who's a good footballing man, in at our club, to run the club, because it was a good opinion. Because I think with Adam Pearson behind it, because he knows what he's a footballing man, he did very well for Hull City when he was in charge there, and I think if he takes over with this together, leads the fans as well, will be able to push forward. Cellino just clears out to our club, and let's get back on with trying to survive in this league. Hopefully don't come back in April and that Together Leeds do take over completely.
I want to interrupt you there. See, this is what I was mentioning earlier. You have changed your tune. Before Cellino took over, you were like, I don't want Cellino in. Then when he took over, and I don't mean this as a personal attack or anything like that, so please don't take it that way. I understand, Liam. But the fact of the matter is, a year ago, before Cellino came in, you were like, oh, I don't want him in. Then when he took over, I saw your Facebook profile change completely, and what your Facebook profile picture changed to was a Leeds United badge mixed with the Italian colours. Am I wrong on that?
No, you was correct there, Liam.
There we go. I didn't think I was wrong, but I just wanted confirmation. And now you're saying you want Cellino to clear off and not come back on April 10th. For me, it's a case of that is the personification of, for me, what is wrong with a lot of football fans. because at the end of the day, when guys like Hockaday were getting sacked and the guy who took over after Hockaday were getting sacked, you were like, no, Cellino's done the right thing, and you were supporting him. So it's either you support the man or you don't. You can't keep flip-flopping, because then what it does is it actually undermines your position when you keep changing your mind that much. So that, but hold on, but wait, hold on. But also, together Leeds wanting to buy Leeds. Jazzy, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have a year and a half ago Adam Waldenberg and his group wanting to buy Leeds as well?
Yeah.
So again, it's history repeating itself. This, I mean, it all depends. And GFH Capital are going to sell to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And the highest bidder, 9 times out of 10, will not be the fans. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Because we've got to wrap this up. Because we've got another farce of a situation coming up as well in the next segment. But the fact of the matter is, this is a farcical situation. It's a debacle. It really is. And the fact of the matter is, it's going to be a very interesting actually not even next couple of weeks. It's going to be an interesting next 5-6 months.
Yeah, I mean,
because depending on whether Cellino comes back after that conviction is served, and also if he doesn't come back, who buys the club? We're gonna be keeping tabs on this.